Today, we'll be taking a look at the high limit thermostat on this GE electric dryer. Be sure to visit ApplianceVideo.com, where you will find thousands of repair videos on the latest technology. And for a limited time, you can save big on an annual membership and take advantage of all of our premium benefits. ApplianceVideo.com. Do it right the first time. To begin your repair, you must first remove the console. Stop. Always be sure to disconnect the power to the appliance. It is also recommended to test the outlet for the proper voltage. You will need the following tools to complete this repair. Now first, we will have to work on the back of the unit. There is one plate that's held on here. Got a couple of 1/4" screws going around. You'll have to take these out. Next, let's just pry this back. Lift it up. We have one ground screw on the bottom that will need to be removed. Pull this off and set the plate aside. Next, we need to drop the console. To drop the console, we have two 1/4" screws, one on each side. And then we're gonna hit back. So use your palm, knock it back here, knock it back here, flip it forward. Now we have all the wiring. So what we'll need to do at this point is obviously remove the wiring. There's a lot of different types of strain relievers on some of these. You got one main Molex here. We'll have to press down, pull it apart. You press on this end here. You'll press the tab down inside to pull apart. Next, you're gonna have to take out all of this wiring. So we'll start with the relays. Now would be a really good time to take a picture of the board. If you haven't already done so, make sure you take a picture so you can see where each one of these go. Again, start prying them off. When you pull on these relays, make sure you put pressure on the actual relay while lifting up. We have the connector on the top here. This will also have to get pushed through. I use the tag puller. It's a little clip on the side. Kind of pushes in, pushes down, and you can set your console aside. Now that we have the console set aside, we can start to remove our top. To remove your top, we have two circular guards here that have to be taken off. We'll start on the left side. It's held on by one 1/4" screw. Pull it off. Now inside we have one ground screw, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to move the wiring harnesses down inside the cavity. So as you can see, this one is still held on. Green ground screw on the chassis, take it out. Now we have separated the wiring harness. We can go ahead and push that one in, take off this piece here. Also held on by one 1/4" screw. You pull out. Just be careful. It can grab the wiring when you're pulling it out. We will undo the strain reliever here. Go ahead and gently put your harness back inside the cavity. Next, we have two screws, both Phillips, one on each side, that will have to be removed. grab all your stuff, set it aside, and we will move around to the front. Back at front, let's just go ahead and open the door. We have 2 Phillips screws underneath that will need to be removed. Go ahead, set these aside. Try to push back on the top panel some. Lift up and set it aside. With the top panel set aside, next we're going to start to remove the front panel. We have a couple of screws that will need to be removed in the front here, all Phillips. Once we remove these, we will switch over to our 1/4 inch. Now, before you pull your front forward, make sure you remove the wiring harness. Just pinch it, pinch the end, pull it apart. We have 2 1/4 inch screws on the top. I recommend just holding your leg there when you take those off so that it doesn't spring down. Drop it forward. We will reach down, undo the wiring harnesses on the bottom. Once you undo the wiring harnesses, tip it down, start to lift it off the bottom. Lift up and set it aside. Now that we have the front panel removed, now we actually have the ability to remove our drum. Now to remove your drum, first we will have to remove the belt. You'll leave it on the machine, but take it off the motor pulley and the idler. So reach in, grab the idler pulley, pull it back, let go of the belt. Let your idler go back. We'll just go ahead and pull the belt past the idler pulley. Next, sometimes, because these edges are so close, they like to scratch on the sides of these. So we'll go ahead and we'll pull it out gently. Start to pull it out. Remove belt and all, and set the drum aside. Now that we have the drum removed, we have clear access to our fuses and thermostats. So what you have on your heater assembly is you have a thermostat. It's essentially a temperature regulator. So if it gets too hot, it ends up shutting off at that thermostat, stops providing heat to the heater so that it doesn't blow the safety fuses. You have 2 of them, one here and one here. They can call them a lot of different names. I see them called safety fuses, inlet fuses, etc. But essentially you have 2 fuses because the heater is so large, as well as a monitoring device, or in this case, the thermostat to prevent it from overheating. If either one of these fuses are bad, I would highly recommend replacing all 3 pieces. If a fuse is bad, generally speaking, there's a reason why. You can test out the heating element to ground, although I don't usually see this heater short out. If you test any one of these terminals to ground, it should not have continuity. Outside of that, check your duct work, and of course, change out the thermostat with whatever you are changing out. So to remove your fuses and thermostats, each one of these is held on by 1 1/4 inch screw. So I'm going to get in there, undo the wiring, take it out, do the same on the other one, and the same on the other one. They are mounted on the top. It is rather difficult to get to, but I found a little box wrench like this worked great. Set the screw down. We will remove the wiring. Do something to just kind of pry up to get it off of the terminals, all right. Set this one aside. We can start to remove the terminals first if you want on the thermostat. Pull off the wiring. Let's get a little ratchet in here and remove the screw. Remove the screw, remove the thermostat, set it aside. We will remove the last one. You can, once again, remove your wiring first if you want. Remove the screw. Remove your fuse and set it aside. When installing your fuses or thermostats, we'll start with the one on the right-hand side with the pink wiring. This was a white fuse. So we will slide it in here. What will happen is this piece on the bottom will slide into a divot inside to kind of hold it in place. Then we will start the screw by hand. It's just easier to locate them and not have to move around a ratchet. We have it on there. Let's go ahead and tighten it up. Reinstall the wiring. Let's move on over to the other side. Same thing with this. There will be a notch for your fuse. Okay, so the fuse mounts up top. This flat spot will go into the slotted area on the casing, and this is where your screw will go. So find the correct position. Slide it in place. It should drop down just a little bit. Now the screw on this one's a little bit trickier because there's not as much room. So I'll just kind of try to line it up by hand. There it is. Start to screw it in a little bit. Let's go ahead and tighten it up. Reinstall the wiring. Now we'll go after our thermostat. This one, the screw hole is on the bottom, so when sliding the thermostat in, the top piece will slide into a divot. Then we'll line up on the bottom for our screw. Bring it in and do it by hand again. There we are. Once you get it in place, let's go ahead and tighten it up. Reinstall our wiring. Now we can reinstall the drum. When reinstalling your drum, we'll lift up on the belt just to kind of hold it in place while we're guiding it in the dryer cavity. Make sure you do not pinch any wiring. So slide this back. When you're going to the back, you want to lift up, have it where the top of the drum looks like it's maybe about an inch away from the top here, and then slide it into place. There's a bearing on the back that has to go into a hole. So when you get it where you think it's in place, give it a turn, make sure there's no scraping. We'll make sure the belt is lined up. There we go. Now it's set into place. So I actually go back about an inch away from the sides here is where it's going to rest in place. Now I'll give it a good turn. Must have just had the very tip of it in there. We'll reach underneath, reattach the belt. So we will pull back on our idler. Wrap the belt around here. Pull back on the idler, bring down the belt. The rib side of the belt goes around the motor shaft. The flat spot goes out. We will let the idler go so it causes tension on the belt. Now we can reinstall the front panel. When reinstalling your front panel, we will line up the bottom and drop it in place. You will have to give it some pressure on the top to push it down. We will reinstall our wiring harnesses. Next, when you're bringing the front in, what you'll want to do is lift up on the drum, slide the front bearing in it, and start to line up the sides in place. Push it in place. Reinstall your front holding screws. We'll reinstall the top wiring harness, open the door, reinstall the internal screws. Now we can reinstall the top. When reinstalling your top, first we're going to bring it in at an angle. Then we're going to start pushing these wiring harnesses inside. First wiring harness in, I'll slide the pink one in. Just go ahead and bring it back. Slide back a little bit and pull forward, so kind of lock it in place. You shouldn't be able to just lift it straight up. Let's go ahead and reinstall the Phillips screws in the front. What I like to do with these is I like to put them in by hand first, because sometimes you have two holes to go through here, here, and then meet up to a hole at the top. Doesn't want to always line up, so put it in by hand before you start drilling. Go ahead and close the door and let's return to the back. Now that we're at the back of the unit again, let's just go ahead and set everything we'll need right on top. Pull out your harness, slide it into the strain reliever and twist it back into place. We will reinstall the bottom Molex here. Now, if you remember correctly, we had a ground strap that was screwed in. Now you have one main ground strap here. One is longer than the other. There's a square end and there's a circular end. The circular end is the one that gets reinstalled inside the chassis. So what we'll do, just pop that screw in it, hold on to the bit, brain in, drill it down. Next, we need to reinstall the covers here. They have a bent down kind of tooth on each end that will go into the slotted area on the hole here. So brain in place, slide it back. On this one, that ground strap wants to push against it a little bit. Just hold it in place. Reinstall your screw. Let's go ahead and do the one on this side. It's kind of hard to see the tooth end on the other, but if you lift the wiring harness up, you'll see it. Slide it back in place, and once again reinstall the holding screw. And finally, we have the 2 screws that are on the back. Now, these Phillips screws sometimes can be difficult to find where they need to go, so I recommend bringing them in by hand, finding where they thread in, and just give it a twist. Same on the other side. If you go in at an angle, the screw will fall too far down, so try to go down as straight as you can. Screw them back in. Make sure your wiring looks okay. Now we can reinstall the console. When installing your console, first we'll lay it in place. Next, of course, you're going to reinstall all your wiring, starting with the Wi-Fi plug-in piece at the top. Slide it in, pop it out, clip it in place. Next, just go through and start to reinstall all your wiring. For the actual relays, I'm going to refer back to the picture that I took earlier to see which one gets plugged in where. So red wire on the end. Followed by the orange wire. Followed by the blue wire. Now we will pull the console back into place. These little teeth here will go into the slotted areas on the top of the dryer. Make sure you drop it down. You'll want to move it back just a tad bit. It'll drop down in place. Give it a little nudge to kind of lock it in. Reinstall our 2 1/4-inch screws. We'll reinstall the ground strap, get it into place. The strap itself had 1 small washer, as well as the green screw. Drop it into place. See which side it goes on. This one is going to be this side. Start it by hand, tighten it up. Let the ground go in. We will drop in the edges into the slotted area provided on the console. Reinstall the 1/4-inch screws around the perimeter. And this will complete your repair. Thank you for watching another quality video from ApplianceVideo.com. If you found this video helpful, make sure you click the like and subscribe to our channel.